Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a fascinating topic, Cartesian Doubt. You might be wondering, what exactly is that? Well, it's a deep philosophical idea introduced by the 17th century thinker René Descartes. And trust me, this isn't just some boring old philosophy lesson. It's about questioning what we know and how we know it. So let's get started. Descartes was all about asking tough questions. His method, called methodological skepticism, is like a mental workout. He wanted to question everything we believe until we find something we can be absolutely sure of. You know, like when you're convinced you left your keys on the kitchen counter, but then you find them in your jacket pocket? Yeah, life's little doubts. One of the big questions Descartes tackled was whether we can trust our senses. I mean, we use our senses to navigate the world, right? But Descartes had some serious doubts. He pointed out that our senses can trick us. Ever seen a magic trick that made you question reality? Yep, that's the kind of skepticism he was talking about. For instance, think about optical illusions or those dreams that feel so real. In one of his famous writings, Meditations on First Philosophy, Descartes gives examples where our senses mislead us. Like when you see a straight stick in water that looks bent, or when you dream about flying and wake up to realize you're still on the ground. If our senses can pull tricks like that, how can we trust them in our waking lives? To really drive his point home, Descartes introduced this wild concept of a deceiving demon. Imagine a super powerful being that could make you believe everything you see is real, even when it's not. Descartes didn't actually think such a demon existed, but it was a thought experiment to show how deeply we could question our reality. It makes you wonder, if everything could be a lie, is there anything we can know for sure? Here's where it gets interesting. After all this doubt, Descartes found one thing he couldn't question: his own existence. He famously said, Cogito, ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am. This was his foundational truth. He realized that even if everything else was uncertain, the fact that he was doubting meant he had to exist as a thinking being. Now, what does this all mean for us today? Well, Descartes' exploration of doubt laid the groundwork for modern philosophy and science. Thinkers like John Locke and David Hume wrestled with similar questions about knowledge and sensory experience. And that skepticism is still alive in science today, where questioning assumptions and relying on evidence is key to discovery. But let's take a closer look at Descartes' method. He didn't just throw out everything he knew without a second thought. Instead, he systematically evaluated his beliefs. He took a step back and asked, what can I trust? In a world full of uncertainty, this is a skill we could all use more of. Think about it. We often rely on our senses to understand our surroundings. Taste, smell, sight. They help us make decisions every day. But what happens when these senses let us down? Descartes' skepticism invites us to consider how often we might be misled by our own perceptions. Now, Descartes didn't stop at just doubting his senses. The idea of the deceiving demon takes things even further. If we can't trust our senses, can we trust our reasoning? He challenged us to think critically about our beliefs. What if everything we know is just a construct? This is why his method of doubt is so powerful. It forces us to confront our assumptions head-on. After establishing the certainty of the Cogito, Descartes turned his attention to the external world. In his later meditations, particularly in Meditation 6, he explored whether the world outside our minds can be known with certainty. Here's where he introduces the idea of a benevolent God. Descartes argued that if such a God exists, he wouldn't deceive us about the nature of reality. So if God is not a deceiver, we can place some trust in our sensory experiences, even if they're not foolproof. Of course, Descartes wasn't completely abandoning skepticism. He acknowledged that while our senses can mislead us, like when we see a mirage in the desert or misjudge the distance of a sound, they generally provide reliable information. But here's the kicker. We need to combine our sensory experiences with reason to interpret them correctly. It's like having a GPS. You can trust it to guide you, but sometimes you need to check the map yourself. Another important aspect of Descartes' philosophy is his distinction between the mind and the body. He believed that our minds are separate from our physical bodies. This means that while our senses may provide raw data from the world, It's the mind that interprets this data. It's like a computer processing information. The data might be flawed, but with the right programming, you can still reach accurate conclusions. Now, Descartes' influence goes far beyond his own time. His skepticism laid the groundwork for what we now call empiricism, the idea that all knowledge comes from sensory experience. Thinkers like Locke and Hume built on his ideas, but took them in different directions. While they agreed that senses can deceive us, they tried to ground knowledge in actual experiences. At the same time, Descartes also helped spark the rise of rationalism, the belief that reason is the primary source of knowledge. He believed that through careful thought and reasoned deduction, we could arrive at truths that are undeniable, even in the face of doubt. This duality in his thinking, between skepticism and rational inquiry, has shaped much of modern philosophy. So what can we take away from Descartes' exploration of doubt? It's a reminder to be cautious with what we accept as truth. Our senses are powerful tools, but they can be misleading. By questioning our beliefs and relying on reason, we can navigate the complexities of knowledge and reality. In the end, the question of whether we can trust our senses remains open to interpretation. While Descartes affirms the possibility of reliable sensory experience, his method encourages us to stay vigilant in our quest for truth. We may never achieve absolute certainty, but the journey of questioning and seeking understanding is what truly matters. Thanks for joining me on this philosophical adventure. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Can we trust our senses? Do you find yourself questioning what you see or hear? Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the world around you.